Have you ever wondered if there can be a conscious approach to relationships? When we go about our lives in a somewhat unconscious way, relating to things and people and situations in a way that implies the universe is random or separate from us, then we aren't really understanding how to consciously relate to our earthly experience. So the way to change this is to actually understand that the way that you perceive life is a relationship in and of itself. There are certain relationships that you probably do value in your life, such as relationships with loved ones, with children, with parents, with different people like friends and family that are of significant importance to you. Why then would you not perceive the connection to life as a whole as another kind of a relationship? Relationships are not only human in nature. It isn't just about how you relate to the important people or animals in your life, but also how you relate to life as a whole as a concept that ends up translating into every single interaction in your life. We don't form positive relationships with anything in our life that are significant and loving in nature if we choose to deny any aspect of ourselves. And so the way to start forming a conscious relationship with life itself is to understand that the conscious relationship needs to be learned. We need to train ourselves to consciously relate to all things in our lives, which means actually being conscious of the role that we play in the entirety of our reality. For example, this means showing up to a human relationship with another person, like a friend or a loved one, in such a way that you're respectful of the other's perspective. You can actually start to go into their consciousness mentally and consider, how do they feel? How do they see you? And by choosing to empathetically show up in that relationship, you start to actually neurologically match their inner condition. This is a seldom known fact about the human state of mind, that we all possess mirror neurons that allow us to emulate another person's feeling state or their behavior. If we're choosing to only represent our own self, our own interests, our own needs, and our own perspectives, we never will feel like we are consciously siding with another individual. In that relationship, there will never be food for thought and more seeds of awareness to grow love, harmony, and collaboration. Instead, it will be much more one-sided and egocentric in nature. To be a conscious observer means to be always aware of your own condition and also to learn how to love your environment. Which means that for a child, it's important to recognize that the world is a continuation of you. Some children are raised, immersed in nature, connected to their environment, feeling connection to family, friends, and loved ones, so they feel very much in touch with the natural element. But if that is not the case, then you will never really experience a conscious relationship to the world. And the less conscious you are as an observer to this reality, the more you will feel like you need to be detached. So then the opposite dynamic starts to manifest, where because of your condition of separation, you start to feel like you need to distract yourself even more to eliminate connection to all things that you are not enjoying in your life. So given that the world is a reflection of your own consciousness and relationships are too, as soon as you start to change the dynamic within yourself, the relationships naturally start to magnetize better outcomes. You'll start to feel that people understand you much more deeply when you actually start to understand yourself. When you know yourself, you're going to attract people that likewise know you. When you know yourself, you're going to attract people that likewise know you. Very often we want to reject external elements that don't allow us to feel a sense of connection, because we're really just lacking the connection to those things in the first place. If you think that relationships unfold randomly or in a way that is detached from you, and maybe you're constantly attracting people or situations that don't feel very much in line with what you want to be experiencing, think about how you can slow down this interaction process and consider the role that you play. And if you feel that you are not playing a conscious role, what can you start to change within yourself to be more of a conscious player in your reality? So let's assume that your soul chose to come here to experience life in the human avatar self. You then chose to incarnate in the Earth School to experience life through relationships, where every relationship is actually the vessel for you to learn awareness. Which also means then that every relationship that you have in your life is teaching you how to understand yourself more deeply. Whether it's a person, place, thing, or situation, the way that you allow yourself to understand that situation and experience allows you to more deeply understand yourself. Every relationship either serves the lesson of teaching us more love through that dynamic, or more love through choosing to align with other kinds of relationships. So if you feel that you cannot learn love through a certain interaction with a certain person or in a certain condition, bring more love to yourself to understand why it is that you have attracted that relationship dynamic in the first place, as it's showing you the path back to your soul.
Every relationship without a doubt serves this purpose of helping us understand more deeply what we're actually creating in our lives. If there's something that you don't want to be repeating as a certain pattern, consider how you need to change within yourself to learn the lesson and to enter a heightened state of awareness, where you can learn something like forgiveness, empathy, consideration of the other's perspective, to now break free from a pattern of you maybe entering an abusive cycle with a certain individual or not feeling fully respected or loved for who you are. If you choose to form this conscious relationship to yourself, it will involve a few very important things. One is letting go of everything in the past that is hindering you from experiencing the desired state of consciousness, the state of love and the frequency of unity within yourself that will allow you to harmonize more with the world around you. Ultimately, life and relationships will start to magically unfold in new ways and change as you decide to assume this new state of consciousness, which allows relationships to thrive because the relationship within yourself is much more sided with unity, awareness, and self-respect. And so you will start to realize, very interestingly, that as soon as you reevaluate who you are and the way that you side with your entire reality, the universe begins to conspire to work with you and be on your own side so that you can experience more harmony and beauty in the outer world as you do from within.
So central to our purpose here as human beings is understanding how to learn to create a conscious relationship within ourselves to the world at large, as this is something that we all need to actually learn. If you take an animal and you introduce them to life that is outside of the wilderness, they will have no way of knowing how to consciously adapt to the world around them. Just like a human being, without being taught human language or human values, human traditions, is going to have no idea how to relate to other people in that similar way that is traditional in nature. And so the only way that we can learn to consciously associate with the world is to understand what currently are we harboring as an aspect of our relationship to all things in existence. This is how in the game of life, we can say, we must experience duality consciousness, where the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the positive and negative emotions, the difficulties versus the blissful moments, to actually learn the difference between ourselves and the physical reality. To understand how to deal with and within our relationships, we must first understand the contrasts and why we create them. In order to create this conscious relationship, we need to first think about how do we actually perceive the world around us. Are you currently choosing to be an overall more positive or a negative person, and why is that? What actually goes into the creation of your individual lens of perspective? Why is there some aspect of you which is hooked on perceiving reality in your own way, and you think that nothing can be altered based on the shift in your own perspective? The truth is, perspective is always a variable ingredient. As soon as you change the energy underlying your perspective, immediately what you look at changes, which means that to change your reality means simply to change the way that you perceive yourself through the mirror of your consciousness. When you feel detached from your experience of being, what begins to happen is you start to reject what is happening to you, and that places you in an even deeper state of resistance. You start to oppose your natural state of joy by being in opposition to the world around you. This runs in contradiction to your role as a creator of this experience, and you will never be able to create if you are still harboring this resistance to what is. So the first step in consciously creating a more expansive, beautiful experience of reality is to accept where you are in this present moment, to realize that what you currently have is what you have created up until this moment of now. Consider also what mentally you are harboring as the conditions about reality as a whole. Do you still see the universe as random, separate, chaotic, entropic in nature, or do you see it as a fully connected, conscious, intelligent entity? And so when you think about developing that healthier, more harmonious relationship with the world at large, consider how you can tap into its intelligence within your own being. Remind yourself that you are a fractal of the universe, which means that the awareness you are seeking already lives within you. As soon as you can find more neutrality toward the universal one, you will start to feel that you are already as one with all aspects of your reality, that you have been through your conscious relationship to all that is, creating your present experience. So to change your experience, simply change the experience within yourself. Focus on more of the elements that you want to bring into your life by creating that same frequency condition within you. And in doing so, you will start to feel that the world conforms to your own expanded expectation, which is a game that naturally unfolds as you decide to change within yourself. In In this exercise, you're going to discover if you're an optimist or a pessimist. So how do you do this? First of all, you need to observe yourself throughout one entire day. On a journal entry, I want you to divide the paper into 2 columns like you did in a previous exercise. On one of those columns, you're going to write positive and in one negative. Now, throughout your day, observe yourself. Think about how are you interacting with the world around you? What is the conscious relationship or the unconscious relationship that you're experiencing? At the end of that day, write down under these 2 columns everything positive and negative that you have observed, felt, and experienced. Now reflect on your 2 columns. Think about what really are you containing in your inner world that is creating this particular experience. And then reflect on, if there are more negatives than positives, how can you start to focus on more beauty in life, more of the positive elements of reality, to really start to list more of those positive variables in there all the time.